Hello and welcome to the news on NTA International. We are streaming live on Vision TV 24/7 and other social media platforms displayed on your screen. I am Dennis Adegunloye. Let's begin with the headlines. Italian Prime Minister meets African leaders at summit to improve relations with the continent. India restates commitment to partnering with Nigeria on socio-economic developments. And federal government tasks tertiary institutions to improve on research and innovations to enhance food security. The African Union Commission Chair Musa Faki Mahamat on Saturday welcomed the United Nations Top Court's decision on Israel's war in Gaza, saying it respects international law. The ruling upholds the respect of international law and the need for Israel to imperatively comply with its obligations under the Genocide Convention, Faki said in a social media statement. African leaders are converging on Rome this weekend for a summit where Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni will finally unveil a strategic plan aimed at redefining Italy's relations with the continent and curbing immigration. At the summit, Meloni seeks to present Italy as the natural bridge between Africa and Europe. Comfort Fashion tells us more.
The much-anticipated Africa Summit, organized by the Italian government, is set to kick off on the 28th and 29th of January. The summit will bring together over 50 delegations, mainly from African countries, as well as EU leaders and representatives of international organizations. The purpose of the conference is to present Italy's strategic plan aimed at reviewing the country's approach to the African continent. Meloni unveiled a non-predatory approach aimed at fostering cooperation. Critics argue that the plan, tagged Mattei Plan, after Enrico Mattei, an Italian public administrator who, in 1950s, advocated for Italy to support North African governments grow their economies and develop their natural resources. 70 years on, Meloni is showcasing the Mattei Plan as the crown jewel of her foreign policy, aiming to once again renew Italy's approach to the African continent. Report says it is far from being comprehensive, as it will cost around €3 million a year and has a 4-year duration. The goal is to enhance energy cooperation with African countries and help them in different areas, including health, education, and several other sectors. But its main purpose is to address the roots economic causes of mass migration from Africa. Some critics have argued that it lacks clear strategy, as one of the problems Meloni faces is that heavily indebted Italy does not have the funds needed to become a major player in Africa, where China, Russia, and Arab states have grown increasingly assertive. Meloni, who assumed office in 2022 with an anti-migrant platform, seeks to position Italy as a crucial link between Africa and Europe. As part of its G7 presidency this year, Italy aims to make Africa development a central theme to enhance its influence on the continent. However, since taking office in 2022, she has put greater focus on the region than most of her predecessors, seeing economic cooperation as the best way to stem a surge of migrant arrivals. Meloni stressed that her goal is to work in Africa and block the departures in Africa. Comfort, fashion, NTA News.
King Charles has had his treatments for an enlarged prostate after being admitted to the hospital on Friday morning. The procedure was carried out at the London Clinic private hospital where Catherine, the Princess of Wales, had surgery last week. The King visited his daughter-in-law in the hospital on Friday morning ahead of his treatment. Queen Camilla left the hospital in Marylebone, central London on Friday evening, having arrived with the King. Before leaving the hospital, she said of her husband that he is doing well. King Charles had made his health problem public as a way of sending a message to other men to get their prostates checked. A statement from Buckingham Palace said the king was delighted to learn that his diagnosis is having a positive impact on public health awareness. He also thanked those who had sent their good wishes. The plan for the king, aged 75, to have corrective procedure for his enlarged prostate was revealed by the palace last week. He travelled on Thursday from Sandringham to London to have the operation. A tanker with links to the United Kingdom was on fire for several hours in the Gulf of Aden after being hit by a missile fired by the Houthis. The Iran-backed movement, which is based in Yemen, said it targeted the Malin Luanda in response to American-British aggression. Comfort Fashion reports.
The US and the UK have launched airstrikes on Houthi targets in response to attacks on ships in the Red Sea region. US says the missile presented an imminent threat to merchant ships and US Navy vessels in the region. The US military said the Malin Luanda, owned by the Singapore-based Trafigura trading firm, was damaged, but no injuries were recorded. The company said the tanker flies under the flag of the Marshall Islands and is operated on behalf of the Trafigura, a multinational trading company. In a recent update, Trafigura said all crew was safe and that the fire in a cargo tank had been put out. The ship is now sailing towards a safe harbor. It is the latest attack on commercial shipping by the Houthis in and around the Red Sea. The group says it is targeting vessels in the region in support of Palestinians in Gaza, where Israel is fighting Hamas. In a statement, a Houthi spokesperson claimed that Malin Luanda was a British ship and was targeted in response to American-British aggression against the country. The UK government says attacks on commercial shipping are completely unacceptable and that Britain and its allies reserves the right to respond appropriately. The UK Maritime Trade Operations warned other vessels to transit with caution and report any suspicious activity. Since November, the Houthis have launched dozens of attacks on commercial vessels traveling through the Red Sea, one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Comfort, Fashion, NTA News.
A jury in New York has ordered former U.S. President and 2024 presidential candidate Donald Trump on Friday to pay $83.3 million to compensate the writer E. Jean Carroll, whom he was found to have sexually assaulted and defamed. The civil order, which prompted an audible gasp in the federal courts, far exceeds the more than $10 million in damages for defamation that Carroll had sought. Trump lashed out at almost immediately, calling the verdict ridiculous and promised to appeal. The order comprised of $65 million in punitive damages after the jury found Trump acted maliciously in his many public comments about Carroll, $7.3 million in compensatory damages, and $11 million for a reputational repair program. Trump, whom a jury found liable for sexually assaulting Carroll in a separate federal civil case in New York, used his Truth Social platform to fire off a spate of insulting messages attacking Carroll, the trial, and the judge, whom he called an extremely abusive individual. The French government has dropped plans to gradually reduce state subsidies on agricultural diesel. However, that seems not to be enough for the angry farmers as they surround Paris and threaten to converge on the capital in their tractors. Let's hear again from Comfort Fashion.
After 2 weeks of protests that have spread across France, with farmers blocked a major highway out of Paris, Prime Minister Gabriel Attal has announced a series of measures to ease financial and administrative pressure on farmers. Attal said the government will put agriculture above everything else, adding that a plan to phase out state support on diesel will be scrapped, red tape simplified, and an appeal lodged with the European Union for a waiver on block-wide rules on fallow land. The Prime Minister also announced other steps designed to quell the unrest that has seen farmers spray manure over a public building and supermarkets, dump hay bales on highways, factories and empty the contents of trucks carrying fresh produce from neighboring countries, as well as stopping the planned trajectory on increasing tax on non-road diesel fuel. He said France will remain opposed to signing the Mercosur free trade deal, which farmers say will flood the country with cheaper Latin American meat and produce. Meanwhile, ahead of a thousand announcements, farmers had threatened to take their protest into central Paris. French farmers used their tractors to block the highway near a highway toll station as they protest over price pressures, taxes and green regulations, grievances shared by farmers across Europe in Chaman near Paris. France is the European Union's biggest agricultural producer. France's protests follow similar action in other European countries, including Germany and Poland, 6 months ahead of European elections in which the far right, for whom farmers represent a growing constituency, are seen making gains. Comfort, Fashion, NTA News.
The Indian government has restated commitments to partner with Nigeria on all fronts to aid development in the two countries. Indian High Commissioner to Nigeria, Shri Balasubramania, stated this at the 75th celebration of the Republic Day of India in Abuja. Austin Anyebe reports.
The events, which brought together friends of India from different countries as represented by their diplomats and their business allies, the media, among others, provided an opportunity for India to reel out achievements recorded by her age-long democracy and bilateral ties with different countries of the world, including Nigeria, in the areas of economy, education, health, among others.
In India, elections have come to be called as a festival. From the end of the last century till now, India has been making rapid progress and is one of the faster growing economies.
India, he said, has continued to contribute to the global economy through partnership with different countries of the world as it shares its technical and technological strength with its allies.
Today, we run one of the world's largest health insurance schemes, made education as a fundamental right enshrined in the Constitution to the 86th Amendment, continue with the biggest welfare initiative in providing food grains to a significant percentage of the Indian citizens.
On the part of the Nigerian government, so many lessons have been learned from India on different fronts and pledge continued partnership.
The state of Nigeria-India economic relation has been remarkable improvement in recent years. Trade volume between the two countries has increased significantly.
India is one of the most strategic partners of Nigerian government in the past many decades, and under the able leadership of President Asuwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
India and Nigeria were all colonized by the Britain. Today, India is the largest democracy all over the world, and Nigeria is the largest democracy in Africa.
The Republic Day is a national holiday marked every 26th January in India, commemorating the adoption of the Constitution of India and the country's transition to a republic in 1950. In Abuja, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
Now, fostering unity among people of the North, ensuring good governance, peace and security, as well as the need to forge a common ground for sustainable development, are some of the ideals of the late Premier of the North, Sir Ahmadu Bello, resolved to be adopted and pursued by leaders from the region as part of efforts to regain the glory known with the region. This was during the 10th annual Sir Ahmadu Bello Memorial Lecture and Merit Awards held in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. Maimuna Garba reports.
The annual lecture organized by Borno State Government and Sir Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation has as its theme creating pathways for peace, tackling banditry and insurgency through good governance for sustainable development. Vice President Kashim Shettima, who was represented, commended the initiators of the foundation, through which legacies of the late premier are passed on to the upcoming generation, and urged all to be committed to adopting them for peace and development. He used the forum to reiterate that the present administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not disadvantage any part of the country.
Every strategy that can end violent crimes and conflicts between communities will be vigorously pursued by the administration.
In their separate remarks, Borno State Governor Professor Babagana Umar Zulum, that of Niger State Muhammad Umar Bago, and Gombe State Governor Muhammad Inuwa Yahaya emphasized on strengthening security, education and agriculture, as well as changing leadership style as the best ways to developing the North and bring back its lost glory.
We must collectively work together in order to build a future that will work for generations yet unborn.
We have abdicated our responsibilities as agrarian people and waiting for handout from federal government. This narrative must change, and that is the way to tackle banditry, insurgency through good governance.
The greatest thing we need to do is to just stay together, align together, and work hard enough to catch up.
Shehu of Borno Abubakar Ibn Umar Garbai Alamin El-Kanemi spoke on behalf of the traditional institution.
Let me urge this forum to examine the current challenges confronting the North and find urgent and lasting solutions.
Whatever you will do, make sure that you secure the lives and property of the people. All other things become secondary.
Professor Tijani Mohammed Bande, the guest speaker, spoke on a wide range of issues.
Any problem affecting the northern part of Nigeria is a problem for Nigeria as a whole.
4 prominent Nigerians, late Professor Emeritus Umaru Shehu, Professor Adamu David Baike, Professor Deborah Enilo Ajakaye, and Aisha Muhammad Nahuche, were presented with the Foundation's 2024 Merit and Lifetime Awards. In Maiduguri, Maimuna Garba, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. We'll have a short break. More reports shortly. Stay with us. You're welcome back. The federal government has directed federal universities and colleges of agriculture in the country to give priority to research and innovation in food production, preservation and processing. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security gave the directive as he addressed chief executive officers of National Agricultural Research Institutes, federal colleges of agriculture and directors of the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. Musa Aliu reports.
The federal government established the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria primarily to coordinate the activities of National Agricultural Research Institutes for effective service delivery. This is why the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, charged the institutions to do more of practicals and less theory towards achieving food security. As part of measures to boost food production in the country, the minister, represented by the Minister of State, Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, advised the institutions to use the available lands within the various agricultural research and training institutions for agricultural production.
And the colleges of agriculture as a group were designed as an arm or training arm of some research institutes. And that is why you hardly see the evolution of a college without seeing a linkage to a research institute. They were actually the training arm, where it is expected that knowledge developed from the research institutes will now be taken to the training arm so that farmers, extension agents, and the like, and operators will be able to tap from that knowledge.
The Executive Secretary, Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, Professor Hamidu Sharubutu, said training remains paramount and expressed determination to improve on adequate supervision in line with the federal government directives.
And that's the more reason why we brought in all the stakeholders and resource persons that are going to deliberate on matters that have to do with the new performance-based evaluation system, as well as issues that have to do with the restructuring of the Agricultural Research Council in its entirety.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has this year approved recruitment of agricultural researchers to complement government plans in adopting modern technology in food production. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
The Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, NTAa, has suspended operations of Martini Airline Services Limited with immediate effect following the incidents that occurred in Ibadan Airport, Oyo State. The Civil Aviation Authority says that an airline with registration mark N580KR on 26th January skidded the runway with 10 people on board with 3 crew members. The National Emergency Management Agency says it received a distress call at the airport confirming that no casualty was recorded. The NCAA clarifies that Martini Airline Services Limited holds a valid permit for non-commercial flights in line with statutory provisions. The Nigeria Safety Aviation Investigation Bureau, NSIB, has launched an investigation into the occurrence. While the NSIB is conducting the investigation, the NTAa says it has initiated an economic inquiry into the operations of the aircraft vis-à-vis the terms and conditions of the PNCF as detailed in its annexure. The suspension, NCAA says, will subsist until the determination is made that the conditions of the PNCF have been adhered to. NCAA, however, assures the traveling public of its utmost commitments to safety and the entrenchment of global best practices. Conflict is and will continue to be part of man. The way it is handled is key to its resolution. This was the line of thought of key players in conflict resolution at the Catholic Missionary Seminary in Abuja, taking cognizance of pockets of challenges confronting some parts of the nation. Ambassador Patrick Njoku advocated the adoption of mediation and arbitration, which is the African way of dispute resolution.
Roundtable is the greatest weapon in peacekeeping. If you make effective use of it before going to war, you may stop the war and move forward to peace. If you ignore it and go to war, at the end of the war, you must come back and sit around it to find how to move on to peace and reconciliation.
And that's part of the conversation, to equip ourselves, to identify those concrete practical tools that can help us to build on our faith and rebuild our resilience.
Others opine that the roundtable is the weapon in peacekeeping.
Nigeria, where we treat everything, where we are part of the futuristic medical world. And we have it, we have the personnel. They are going. But my prayer is that they go and come back and bring in what they've left, they learnt there. And our place will be a better place.
The worst that can happen is to be without hope. Then we're as good as dead. That is why hope must be kept alive. It may not be realized when you and I want it, but it will happen.
For Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, hope is relative to whatever man is enduring.
Institutes. We have tried everything. The colonialists, we've done military, we've done it. We just have to continue to renew ourselves. So it's like anything else in life. So, and I think definitely things cannot get worse. They may get worse before they get better. And that's why I think we must just remain hopeful.
Knowing that peace cannot be kept by force but by understanding, the forum urged Nigerians at all times to embrace peace and support the leadership for the actualization and sustenance of a prosperous Nigeria. The federal government has been advised to make full use of non-kinetic approaches in ending insecurity in the country. A group under the auspices of the Foundation for Peace and Non-Violence in Nigeria has emphasized this with the theme Remaking Nigeria Through Non-Violence. Oyeyemi Ajayi reports that the group emphasized that if insecurity is solved, the rapid growth of the country's economy is undeniable.
As one, to address this issue through the non-violent approach.
Don't go and defend your man because it's from my own place. Expose every aspect of corruption.
Government is doing the effort to stop it, but the result is not out.
All right, let's now get a quick check on the weather prospects. Well, that concludes the news on NTA International at this time. Many thanks for watching. I am Dennis Adigunloye.